Good morning, everyone. Lots going on today. Lots happening in Canadian politics. Lots happening in international politics too. And well, first let's go to the biggest bombshell, something most people didn't expect. Pierre Poilievre removes himself from the leadership race of the Conservative Party. So here he is tweeting, and this is yesterday at 5 o'clock p.m. It says, quote, "Over the last several weeks, I have been building a team and support for a possible run for the Conservative leadership. In crisscrossing the country, I have been overwhelmed with the favorable response. I knew it would be hard on my family life to do this, but I did not realize how hard. It is harder still because I had just spent the earlier 18 months campaigning furiously to win back my seat in the recent federal election. I mostly missed the first year of our baby's life. As such, my heart is not fully engaged in this leadership race. Without being all in, I cannot be in at all. So I've decided not to seek the leadership of the party at this time. I will continue serving the people of Carleton in Parliament. I am not currently supporting any other candidate, but I will be looking for a strong fiscal conservative who will unleash free enterprise so people can achieve their dreams through hard work. Finally, I want to thank the people who helped me, supported me, and believed in me. I will never forget it." And well, that's his statement. Briefly yesterday, Mr. Charest was in for this race, and then he wasn't. He posted it and then he didn't. After 80 views, 1 like, 3 dislikes, and a screenshot by Alexander Kwan. And he's tweeting, quote, "So this is very odd. A video from, I don't know if Jean Charest, I don't know, sorry if I got that wrong, says he was running for CPC leadership, was online for an hour before it was swiftly pulled down." And so yesterday I tweeted out like, oh, this is going to be a real nail biter. Who's going to win this? And I think they're just going from like Andrew Scheer, who is a lukewarm candidate, to Peter MacKay, who is another lukewarm candidate who is not going to do anything but push the globalist things that Mr. Scheer was pushing. It's the same LibCon thing. And, see 2019 videos for coverage of that. Because, that's the truth. It's the same thing. They're just overwhelming our systems, watching as the systems collapse, and continually sending money outside of the country and saying, oh man, we've got to raise taxes to fix climate change. How do taxes help climate change? But I don't want to get derailed. The Conservative leadership is very lukewarm, and the leadership race isn't much of a leadership race. One person has a national face, has national pedigree, and Aaron O'Toole, he would need to do a lot of work. It would be very expensive for him to mount a campaign in the time he would need to actually be a challenger. Then again, what backroom deals do you have to make? Andrew Scheer wasn't a very well-known name either, right? He famously had to walk around streets and have people introduce him as the leader of the opposition because people just don't care about politics, right? Like that's the fact of it. And it's sad. So with all of that happening domestically, we're going to go a little international here, but I'm going to go back in time. This is February 22nd, 2017, almost 3 years ago. This is Nature magazine. And it says, inside the Chinese lab, poised to study the world's most dangerous pathogens. Maximum security biolab is part of plan to build network of BSL-4 facilities across China. Where is it? Wuhan, China. And what's happening in Wuhan today? I'm going to read that article, but I want to show you just before we start. Here's January 23rd, 8:26 a.m. China extended its Wuhan coronavirus quarantine to 2 more cities, cutting off 19 million people in an unprecedented effort to stop the outbreak. Okay? 19 million people. That's a lot of people. We're going to read this article now. Back to 2017. A laboratory in Wuhan is on the cusp of being cleared to work with the world's most dangerous pathogens. The move is part of a plan to build between 5 and 7 biosafety facilities, BSL-4 labs, across the Chinese mainland by 2025, and has generated much excitement as well as some concerns. Some scientists outside China worry about pathogens escaping and the addition of a biological dimension to geopolitical tensions between China and other nations. But Chinese microbiologists are celebrating their entrance to the elite cadre empowered to wrestle with the world's greatest biological threats. Yikes. Right? Yikes. Okay, back to this. It will offer more opportunity for Chinese researchers, and our contribution on the BSL 4-level pathogens will benefit the world, says General Gao, director of the Chinese Academy of Sciences Key Laboratory of Pathogenic Microbiology and Immunology in Beijing. There are already 2 BSL-4 labs in Taiwan, but the National Biodiversity Laboratory, Wuhan, would be the first on the Chinese mainland. I scroll down a little bit. BSL-4 is the highest level of biocontainment. Its criteria include filtering air and treating water and waste before they leave the laboratory, and stipulating that researchers change clothes and shower before and after using lab facilities. Such labs are often controversial. The first BSL-4 lab in Japan was built in 1981, but operated with lower risk pathogens until 2015, when safety concerns were finally overcome. The Wuhan lab cost 300 million won, $44 million, and US dollars. And to allay safety concerns, it was built far above the floodplain and with capacity to withstand magnitude 7 earthquakes, although the area has no history of strong earthquakes. It will focus on the control of emerging diseases, store purified viruses, and act as a World Health Organization reference laboratory linked to similar labs around the world. It will be a key node in the global biosafety lab network, says the lab director, Wan Jiming. And sorry if I got that wrong, I probably do. The Chinese Academy of Scientists approved the construction of a BSL-4 laboratory in 2003, and the epidemic of SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, and Toronto will remember that, around the same time lent the project momentum. The lab was designed and constructed with French assistance as part of a 2004 cooperative agreement on the prevention and control of emerging infectious diseases, but the complexity of the project, China's lack of experience, difficulty in maintaining funding, and long government approval processes meant the construction wasn't finished until the end of 2014. Oh, that makes me feel even worse. I didn't realize it was 2014. Like, it's only been running for a few years, right? It's not like it's been running without issues since the early 2000s. No, it's just getting started. And while we've got a 19 million person quarantine. I was going to say containment, but that sounded way too umbrella corp, right? Back to this. Future plans include studying the pathogens that causes SARS, which also doesn't require a BSL-4 lab, before moving on to Ebola and the West African Lassa virus, which do. Some 1 million Chinese people work in Africa. The country needs to be ready for any eventuality, says Juan. Viruses don't know borders. Yeah, no, they don't. They don't. They fly on planes, but they don't know borders. Gao traveled to Sierra Leone during the recent Ebola outbreak, allowing his team to report the speed with which the virus mutated into new strains. The Wuhan lab will give his group a chance to study how such viruses cause disease and to develop treatments based on antibodies and small molecules, he said. I've never heard small molecules. I don't know how you build, and I'm being genuinely, like, I don't know how you build this. I'm not trying to cast doubt on it. I'm just saying, I don't know how you build a cure based on small molecules. I'm interested in what that means. Like a barrier? Like you actually put a physical barrier? I don't know. I'm interested. I have no idea. So I'm just going to read this one. Moving forward to 2020, this is July 23rd. That's yesterday. I'm just going to read this. China has extended its quarantine on the city of Wuhan over a deadly virus to 2 more cities on Thursday, cutting off a total of almost 19 million people. Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak, shut down planes, trains, and buses from the city at 10 a.m. local time on Thursday morning, with passengers leaving before the time getting health screenings. And I've showed videos of that before. Here's BBC News saying coronavirus, how do you quarantine a city and does it work? I'm not getting into this. I just want to show you this is the stuff that's being printed. You can have a read for yourself. And can you quarantine a city? This is another one. I was talking with my friend the other day, and I said, it sounds kind of like that game, and the game is Plague. And remember, if you got the virus onto Morocco, I think it was Morocco, you basically won, right? If the virus could get there. But man, it's interesting to me. Why do I have the first duel between Jack Sparrow and Will Turner? Okay, in this duel, and I'm going to get there. In this duel, Will Turner plays by the rules, right? He says, you can't do that. We have to have a duel, and it's going to be an upfront duel, above the board duel. And Jack Sparrow teaches him that a man will do what a man will do, or a man will do what a man can do, right? And what's a fair fight if you've lost and he's already gone, right? And that's kind of the difference between the West and China with how they operate with regard to, well, a lot of things, intellectual property, and I don't know necessarily if that's the case here in Wuhan, right? I don't know if it's lax practices, but if it took that extended period of time to build this lab with foreign, French in this case, help, And all of a sudden, a few years later, we've got 19 million people quarantined. Man, I don't think it's a bat soup that did this, right? And who knows? Who knows? Now, what is the potential connection to Canada, right? Here it is. Here we go. Bringing it home. Let's go. And CBC News is reporting on July 14th of 2019, Chinese researcher escorted from infectious disease lab amid RCMP investigation. A researcher with ties to China was recently escorted out of the National Microbiology Lab, NML, in Winnipeg amid an RCMP investigation into what's being described as a possible policy breach. Dr. Qi, that's what I'm going with, I'm sorry if I've got that wrong, and her husband, Mr. Cheng, and an unknown number of students from China were removed from Canada's only Level 4 lab on July 5th, CBC News has learned. A Level 4 virology facility is a lab equipped to work with the most serious and deadly human and animal diseases. That makes the Arlington Street Lab one of only a handful in North America capable of handling pathogens requiring the highest level of containment, such as Ebola. Security access for the couple and the Chinese students was revoked, according to sources who work at the lab and do not want to be identified because they fear consequences for speaking out. Sources say this comes several months after IT specialists for the NML entered Qi's office after hours and replaced her computer. Her regular trips to China also started being denied. Sounds like a usual pattern. Sounds like a usual thing they go to. Just deny it. Just deny it. Doesn't matter if it's true. Back to the article. At meetings on July 8th, NML staff were told the researchers are on leave for an unknown period of time. They were told not to communicate with them. He is a prominent virologist who helped develop ZMapp, a treatment for the deadly Ebola virus, which killed more than 11,000 people in West Africa between 2014 to 2016. She worked with Gary Kobinger, who is now a professor in the Department of Microbiology and Infectious Diseases and director of Research Center on Infectious Diseases at Laval University in Quebec. So they're trying to say she's credible, right? They're trying to say she's credible. Fast forward, we'll get there in just a minute. There's a little bit more to talk about. The RCMP, back to the article. The RCMP received a referral from the Public Health Agency of Canada on May 4th. Based on information received to date, the RCMP has assessed that there is no threat to public safety at this time. Robert Siren, excuse me if I've got that wrong, said in an email to CBC News on Thursday. And this whole thing is just full of like Jim meme moments, right? Like, pick any gym name, really. A lot of them work, but this one I'm just like, yes, that one fits this. Like, really? No threat to public safety at this time. Okay, not right at that time, maybe in 2019, but how about 6 months later, right? Back to this. PHAC is describing it as a policy breach and an administrative matter and says the department is taking steps to resolve it expeditiously. Eric Morissette, the health agency's chief of media relations, said from Ottawa. No one is under arrest or confined to their home, he added. When asked for a response to the latest details, Morissette said there would be no further comment for privacy reasons. A spokesperson for Health Minister Jeanette Pettipas Taylor said she was aware of an administrative investigation at the lab, but the lab had no comment. Quote, we can assure Canadians that there's absolutely no risk to the Canadian public and that the work of the NML continues in support of the health and safety of Canadians, Communications Director Matthew Fillon said in an email Saturday. And again, I have to say, yeah. A spokesperson for the Canadian Border Services Agency said the department will not confirm or deny whether anyone has been arrested or is under investigation. That information would only be public if charges were laid. Judith Gaboy Saint-Cyl, or Saint, sorry, I don't even know how to say that. Sorry. The C and the Y and the R are just playing with my head. Said in an email Thursday, no one from the Chinese embassy could be reached for comment. And shocking, they don't want to comment on that, right? Ooh, really. Here's the follow-up. The next day, July 15th, university severs ties with two researchers who were escorted out of the National Microbiology Lab. The University of Manitoba has cut ties with two researchers who were escorted out of the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg earlier this month until an RCMP investigation is complete. Dr. Qi is a medical doctor and virologist who helped develop ZMapp treatment for the deadly Ebola virus. She was also an adjunct professor in the university's Department of Medical Microbiology until Monday. Her non-salaried position, quote, has ended, and all students she supervised have been reassigned pending the RCMP investigation, university spokesperson John Denakis said in an email. Non-salaried? So she had non-salary, and she had students who weren't drawing a salary, and she had full access to the lab? Hold on, and it gets better. back to the article. The non-salaried appointment of her husband, Mr. Cheng, has also ended as the police investigation continues, Dinakis said. He is a biologist who has also done a lot of work on Ebola. He could not be reached for comment. Yeah, according to the sources inside the NML, Qi, Cheng, and an unknown number of her students from China were removed from the lab on July 5th. Level 4 virology facility, the only one in Canada, is equipped to work with the most serious and deadly human and animal diseases. Security access for the couple and the Chinese students was revoked. So, really interesting. Now we're at the part of the video where I'm going to show you videos of people just falling over and stuff from China, apparently. And if this stuff makes you concerned or worried, don't watch it. It's not worth it. It's not worth watching it. But it looks like this is happening. This is from news.com.au. It says terrifying videos of contagion-like scenes appear to show people infected with coronavirus being taken in boxes and tubes while doctors collapse in the middle of a hospital. So here it is. I'm just going to show you. Yeah, we'll play the whole 45 seconds. I'm just going to show you this one. I'm going to highlight the next two and not show the actual thread. Okay, here we go. Okay, that one was kind of boring. I'm going to show you this one now. This is just a guy who fell over. There's another one of a guy just standing, and there's security guards, and then he just falls over. And this seems to be like people who are feeling healthy and then they just go out and fall over. It's very, very concerning. Here's City News. I'm not going to play this one. Global News, excuse me, is tweeting scientists around the world, including Canadian labs, are working on developing a vaccine for the new coronavirus from China. And the last one is the City of Toronto and the Ontario Chief Medical Officer is saying that we're ready. I have to say, I was reporting on yesterday that Brampton has one hospital to serve 700,000 people. Like, ready? We don't seem ready for a flu pandemic, like a flu epidemic. We're certainly not ready for this. Here it is.
So we're ready. We're prepared. Everyone knows their policies and procedures. Staff in different settings and leadership are making sure there are places in order to respond to people under investigation, which is most of what we're doing now. And I'm glad to hear that even before we came up with making it reporting, hospital staff and individuals had come forward. People had volunteered to come forward with a travel history to Wuhan and wanted to be assessed. So we're ready. We're prepared.
Wonderful. We've got sick people from Wuhan who are coming forward by themselves, who just want to be assessed, They just want to see if they've got that thing that, 19 million people are quarantined for in China. What's the population of Toronto again? What's the population of the GTA? Or Ontario? How do you quarantine a city? I don't know. It looks like we're about to find out. It's a pretty wild time. So, and I don't mean to sensationalize this. I'm not trying to scare anyone. I want to make that clear. It's just the facts of this on its face are scary. So if you've got something that disproves anything I've said, please, I'll sticky the comment. But this looks very, very concerning. Very concerning indeed. That's me understating it. Okay? Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. And I'm working on getting the registration to work. I think some people are having problems with that. And have a wonderful, wonderful day.